This talk with you folks about 20 minutes ago. So pardon me if it's a little scattered at times. So I'd like to start by saying my name's Tyler and I'm in recovery. I'll wait. Hello, Tyler. Okay. So for a long part of my life, I was just Tyler the addict. I was just Tyler the drug user. I was just Tyler the homeless kid up the street. For a long part of my life, I was only conditioned to believe this of myself. All I could expect myself is to get more and within any means necessary. And today, that is not who I am. Today, sorry, I get like a little emotional talking about my experience. Today, I get to be a student. Today, I get to have the privilege of having a friend ask me to do tiny talks. Today, I get to be a loving, caring friend. I get to be a son, and I get to share my experience with others to help them with what they're going through. This wasn't always a story, though, as I mentioned. I experienced homelessness during the majority of my adolescence. I was precariously housed for the majority of my teenage life. I had a very abusive household and had a hard time finding my identity with the support of very little to no one. I acted out a lot, and I used the resources I had to keep myself safe. And sometimes this ended up hurting other people. I became homeless, I'd say at the age of 17. I got kicked out of my mom's place. I wasn't talking to my dad at all. I had incredibly complex mental health problems at the time. And in my family, mental health isn't something we talked about. It's not something that we whispered about. It didn't exist. And it was actually profound because my mother, as a child, I remember very little about my childhood, but some of the memories I do have, I believe a lot of my childhood memories are repressed for a reason. But this is some pretty triggering content, so if you need to leave the room, please feel free to do so. But as a child, I remember walking into my mother, passed out with an empty pill bottle. That was the first attempt at suicide. The second one was her breaking the porcelain toothbrush holder. No, not porcelain, ceramic toothbrush holder, and slitting her wrist with it. And trying to pry the door open before I was able to call the police and get some support for her. So I carried a lot of baggage around with me as a child and didn't know how to ask for help because help wasn't something we asked for. This toxic masculinity, this identity that I had to create of being strong and better than and more capable. And it caught up with me eventually. So I was a gifted student. I went to a high school for gifted students. Everyone who I know that graduated from my graduating class in high school, which I was not a part of, went on to be doctors, engineers, some of the most brilliant minds that I know. And that was not the course or the path that I took in life. I started selling drugs at a very young age. I like I mentioned, very little mentorship or guidance from a male role model. And I kind of found my own community. I found my own family, my own friends. And this was people that like to party. People like to party hard. People that like to cause violence. People that profited off of other people. And I did this for a little while, and with all the unresolved trauma I experienced, I became my own best customer. And this didn't last for long. I remember I was like 18, I had 2 cars, had my own place, enough money and drugs. And it's like I fell asleep and woke up and it was all gone. It was all gone. And I woke up in the shelter. I had no more friends to abuse. I had no more family left to listen. There was nothing. So I was homeless, and this was in Brampton, Ontario, about an hour east. You don't know where Brampton is? And I going into the shelter program, there are 3 times in my life that I've been dehumanized. I felt like I am subpar human anymore. And one of them was in the shelter network. Shelters make you feel so dehumanized. You have very little self-worth, very little hope that you can be anything but the presenting problem. And that was all that was ever confronted in my experience in these shelters. People didn't take a moment to acknowledge the person behind the behavior. They just acknowledged the behavior. And it was always the presenting problem. And the second dehumanizing experience I had in custody. Jails do not help people, period. I don't care what political party you follow or where your alliances are in regards to incarceration and correctional, they don't work. There's no recovery there. Put a bunch of people with trauma and sickness together in these cages and expect them to get better? Tell me how that works. The third one we're going to talk about, so I came to Hamilton after getting discharged and no trespass ordered by the police from the Brampton shelters because I was a Tasmanian devil, just hurting a lot of people. And so I ended up with a list of shelters, and on the list was the Notre Dame House, which is through Good Shepherd in Hamilton. I think that was 2012 I came to Hamilton. I was 20 at the time. And my drug use became exponentially worse. I started using heavier substances. I became an intravenous. So a lot of the substances that were mentioned in this naloxone training, I was using frequently. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
So I didn't do well in the Hamilton shelters either. So I got discharged from the only youth shelter in Hamilton, and I ended up in the men's services, men's shelters. And men's shelters are so much like jail. You have 50 people sleeping in bunk beds in a single room. And then they expect you to feel human enough to get up in the morning and get a job, or feel dignified enough that you deserve a place to stay, somewhere safe, somewhere clean. And this is not the condition that I inherently, believed in myself after being treated so poorly for so long. So I was very alone, very lonely, and always sought after someone to take care of me and to love me. And I found this in different ways. I found this through, again, another trigger warning for people that are sensitive to certain topics, to sex work. And not necessarily the same sex work that a lot of us know, but selling myself for drugs to people. But I could get drugs. But it was the connectedness. Somebody seemed like they actually cared. Somebody seemed like they wanted me around. And even though it was fraudulent and a misled belief, it still was something. In this time of my life, I had no family around. I had very little people. until I met this drug counselor who changed my life forever. She took a moment to step back and look at the person beneath all this anger and frustration in the world, as somebody that was very, very mad, just mad at the world for what I was given. And this person helped coach me with love, compassion, to loving myself, to believing that I could be more than just Tyler the addict. And through this love and support, I went to treatment. I'm gonna give you the fast spiel about my recovery. This was 2014, and I stayed in recovery since. It's been a lot of ups and downs. I'm very grateful to have a home today. I couldn't imagine what life would be like without subsidized housing. I lived in subsidized housing, where Good Shepherd only charges me 1/3 of my income, and as they should be, yeah, absolutely. So I get to be a student and not worry about being evicted tomorrow by an abusive landlord. I don't have to worry about that, and I know what that's like. And I think these are privileges that everyone should share. It's not a privilege; it's a right, a human right. I was able to, through my recovery, persuade one person at least at City Hall of Hamilton to give me some money so we could start a peer support worker role at the Notre Dame House Shelter. And I get to do that now. I get to be somebody on the other side of the desk who can share with my coworkers how silly some of the decisions they want to make are. There's a lot of resistance, but it's okay, we're working on it. Today I get to go to school. I currently go to McMaster for social work. So there, Kimmy over there. I can't wait to see what the future has for me. The world is a better place when we share more love and less judgment, more compassion, less hate. Thank you for giving me the time and space to share this message with you. I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you.